we're waiting for Ray to come back so he can start. Like we're going to be, just in the spirit of just transparency, this is going to be recorded, but only for us. Yeah, it's not going to go. It's not going anywhere. But we want you to be free, ask questions and whatnot, because, yeah. And I know. I know you're good. You're good. So Ray will be back in a minute, and we will be all set. And I heard you say that you were good as far as treats and things, but there's some fruit because I know you're health conscious and everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yesterday, Kate, I had a salad, and Maria was, helping me with making healthy choices. I was doing spaghetti. We both were doing pasta, but we had a salad, and so I put the olive oil. I think it might have been Italian dressing with olive oil, which is healthy for Italian dressing. And then I didn't know they had ranch, so then I put ranch on top of it. I thought she was like, oh, look at you, your arteries. She didn't say this, but this is.
It's so funny because I have a lot of family that's like in the Mediterranean, and
Yeah.
they toss everything in olive oil. When they make pasta, after they strain it, they toss it in olive oil even before they put sauce on. They put olive oil, they toss their lettuce in olive oil. Everything goes.
So even if they put sauce on something, they still do. They still put the olive oil.
They toss it in olive oil.
Because it is healthy. It is good for you.
That's why they have such a great digestive system.
Yeah.
Because that's what the olive oil does.
Yeah, yeah, it's magical.
Yeah. I know. I'm gonna go get. That's a lot. That's a lot. No, you're fine. You're fine. I didn't know because we've had so many changes. Now that we actually have a person, we're gonna go ahead and because we were gonna wait. But we're gonna go ahead and get started.
I think 80. I'm rolling over 40. Well, I've been around 18, so I always,
Oh, right, banking hours. Yeah.
every year I went 80. Every year.
How much?
80. That's the
When she said 8, I thought she said 8. I was like, oh, so you just do a little bit every year. She said, no, 80. So when you retire, though, they'll cash out because it's banked.
for whatever my pay rate is for the moment that I retire.
And you only get that after you've been how long?
10 years over.
Yeah, and nothing's being recorded.
Make sure you're keeping track of that separately in paper. Because I've heard two people having problems getting their bank hours.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I did. Yeah,
Because I've been banking for 8 years. I've been around for 18 already.
yeah,
8 years or 80 hours.
yeah, yeah,
I had 300 and...
yeah,
Oh, because then I get the retirement for goodwill, but I had to get to my age. So I get $1,000 per year served
yeah.
after the 15 years.
So that's
I
enough.
have $18,000 to die now.
Right.
In October will be 19.
And then, I mean, that's why yes, that is exciting. And the banked hours?
Yeah, that is like having, another 403B or 401.
Yeah, it really is. It really, really is.
So it worked out. And I
All right.
Because I get paid from, what, 260?
Isn't that crazy? We can barely use get our 96. As a matter of fact, both Kate and I are rolling over.
That is the reason why I take vacation throughout the year. I bank 80, I roll over, and I still have 16 hours because I'm going to Spain next week.
Wow.
And I'm going to be out for 17 days, and I still have 16 hours left. And I donate. I donated to people in need in Google.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So let me ask you, do they give
Testing. Can you hear me right? Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you.
But the max is when you get to 15 years. Then after 15, you don't get any more. So it's 216, I think it is. That stays forever until whatever. They haven't changed that.
Wow. That's a lot because that's what.
But it is a lot.
Is that 4,
Because
5?
that's all the holidays.
5,
That's your
6.
birthday, you know.
That's like 6 weeks about a vacation. Oh my gosh. So that's a lot. We have that to look forward to. You know, there's some advantages to being at one company for a long period of time. It is.
And time flies.
It
You think
re-
that 10 years is 15 years is too much, it's not.
yeah.
You get there really fast.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and get going. And as I shared, we are going to record this part, and we're just gonna go straight through into the end. We have and so you can go ahead and start.
Come from behind the pole.
The one bit of coaching that I got, I was like, let me stand right here so nobody can see me. All right, so welcome to the new NHO manager training. So glad. We might have a small, cozy group, but guess what? It's a great group. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. So I always like to start by just, doing sort of a level set. If you would, everybody, if you could introduce yourself, and I'll play along as well. Introduce yourself, your department, title, how long you been at Goodwill.
My name is Maria Jackson. I'm from the operations team. I've been around for 18 years, and my title is Sales and Merchandising Manager.
All right, fantastic. So all right. Now, was I right behind the pole? Okay, is that good? All right, so now were you able to hear Maria's feedback at all? So now we know that's fine. She doesn't have to repeat it, but I do have another question though. I want to ask Maria, how long have you been at Goodwill? And so Kate's going to bring you a mic. So when we do answer questions, how long have you been with the Goodwill family?
18 years.
18 years, and you've been.
Hey, there we go. Oh, yes.
Yes. Perfect. So keep the mic just for a moment. So, Maria, fun fact about you.
Fun part about me.
Yeah, just a fun fact.
Well, I've been around for 18 and enjoy every single day.
Oh, well, that's a great fun fact.
Yes.
Yes, and so
Every day is different and it's exciting.
yes. Yeah, and you're a great resource. We talked about that yesterday. You know where all the bodies are buried. You know all the information, all the people.
That's why I'm here. People ask and I wanted to have the answers.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Yes.
That's just so proactive of you. So very, very cool. Thank you for playing along, Maria. All right. And we have what I haven't shared is that I'm not in this alone today. I have a partner, my wing woman, and if the tech, don't fail me now. Let's see if we can get this tech working. There we go. All right, so she's up here. I have my partner, corporate trainer friend, Kate Malone. She's going to just introduce herself. Kate, your title, a fun fact about yourself, how long you been at Goodwill?
Sure. So I'm Kate Malone Davis. I have been with Goodwill for 5 years, or it was 5 years in January. And I'm a corporate trainer, but I did start in career services. I have 2 wonderful boys that play so many sports that I don't remember what a weeknight at home is like.
All right. So you're like mom cab. Absolutely. So yeah, and so Kate's going to she's also the project manager for this, so I will be leaning on Kate for the weeds. When there are questions that are real granular, she's my go-to. So thank you so much for that. And so we're gonna be talking about what we're up to with this new NHO program. And I do like to, now that I know who's in the room, I also want to find out what you know about the I-9. So I am not going to have Kate just having to bobble all over the place, especially when I have these little pop-up questions that I just asked. So Maria, if you could tell me, what do you know about I-9s?
Well, when we used to set up the stores, we did the I-9s back in the day. So we just had to check 2 forms of ID and log it in a form and then submit it just for the e-verification.
All right, and you did that for for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, we did it for, I think, 6 years.
6 years,
Yeah.
right? And so what you're doing now in your role as a sales manager, a lot of people come to you for questions.
Yes.
So you want to be informed so that you can be another resource. And we love the fact that you're partnering with us and supporting them.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
because
this
a
is
lot of
good stuff.
people don't know what they're looking at, and they might be misinterpreting some of the documents. They're not familiar with the process. It's going to take a
Absolutely.
little bit of time for everybody to get familiar with the process.
Right.
And that's why they called. They called me a couple of weeks ago, and I found out that they were doing new hire orientation, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So I
Oh.
had to get updated. A month ago, and that's when I reached out to you, and I said, can I be invited to the next one?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad you made the time on a Friday. So thank you
okay.
so much for that. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. So what's good about this is that, and we'll keep this close by because we know that you're going to be the person that I'm going to be asking questions. Not putting you on the spot or anything. If I promise you. That's why I was saying to you earlier that you are a great person to have in the class because you're so comfortable.
Yeah.
And you're going to be really the voice of a lot of people just being, just expressing questions because you don't know anything about it. So this is great. So we have this new model, but really what's old is new again because we've had I-9s before. And so what we have now is a structure that we think we kind of worked the bugs out and that it's really a streamlined process. And I've heard some really good things from you about folks really appreciating what we're up to with the new models. So today we're going to be talking about the new NHO model. We're going to show you through a demo what it's all about because I could say it's easy all day long, but when you see it, seeing is believing. And then we're going to talk about how we're going to support folks moving forward because like Maria said, it's not a one and done. There is a learning curve, so we have to reinforce the messaging multiple ways, and we're here for that. And we want everybody to know that this is not a one and done, that we're going to be in the trenches, if you will, with them. And we've given you quite a bit of documentation. So if you haven't seen it, and I think you've already started investigating, there are 8 handouts in there, starting from the PowerPoint itself. So, and I made them in color, and I made them in big sizes. So, because isn't it annoying when you have those PowerPoints that have the little small writing? Because what's the point of that? Just to follow along. You can't read it. You can't follow along. So I gave you that so that later, like when we start talking about different types of ID, for example, and processes, you actually can use that as a job aid as well. So I wanted that for you guys. So that's what we're going to be up to today. And as we get to different handouts, I'm not just going to go through a laundry list of handouts right now. I'll highlight what's in your packet. And it should be in the order that you're going to be seeing them on the screen. So, all right. So next, so why are we even introducing this new model? We heard you. So for anybody who's ever had a person come to new hire that had to travel an hour and a half, their store is in walking distance, but they had to travel an hour and a half in order to get to the new hire because it was at maybe SSC and they're in Rome, or maybe it was on a weekend. Maybe you had a student that could only come to new hire on a Saturday and they were in Athens. And there wasn't one that particular Saturday in Athens. I mean, there are a lot of scenarios. So from the very beginning, people perhaps are not engaged. What happens if once they get to new hire orientation on the one day they actually could come, they don't have ID? That means that they would have to wait possibly, if they only can come on Saturdays, they might have to wait 2-3 weeks, a month, right? So there's a lot of things that can come into play. And in that window, in that gap, when we have to reschedule people, Chick-fil-A or Walmart, they're ready to scoop them up. So many different vendors right now because we all know that there's an employee shortage right now. So to make it easier, most people apply for jobs that are right in their backyard. A lot of people can walk to the store. So if there is a problem, that it can be remedied very quickly. They can it's convenient for them. They don't have to trek. They don't have to spend money to make money by traveling an hour and a half. So a lot of flexibility built in, a lot of ease. And we are being preventative because we want to save. We want to keep all the people that we go through all that work to do the background checks and all that. We want to keep them. We don't want, what do they call it, unforced error. Yeah, so this is going to prevent that. So reducing delays for start dates and also reducing travel. So we heard you all. All right, so there are 3 major buckets in terms of the actual process. Of course, it's the I-9 itself. And we're going to unpack that from soup to nuts. Next, there is the part where we are giving out the information. So good news, you don't have to get up in front of anybody. You don't have to be this, presenter extraordinaire or anything like that. You get to do this by putting people on Brainier. We're going to talk more about that. They watch a video in Brainier. So lastly, the photo taking process. So this is, I would say, one of the things that sometimes people forget about, but it is an important part of the process. I know some managers don't necessarily make the badges with the photos on it, but just to be clear, photos are for compliance. Exactly. You just displayed yours, Maria, and I have mine with the picture on it as well. So pictures are important for multiple reasons, identifying you for security and also for compliance, because we take the photo and it's in UKG Pro. So even if they don't have them on their badges, we have them in the system. So, and that's an important part. So we do remind the managers to make sure that the photos are taken. And if you've ever taken a photo with your phone, you know how to do that. So we'll reiterate what all the parts are, but this is really the process. Not a hard process at all. It's real streamlined. And we give you a lot of support because we don't expect you to just memorize this stuff. So the I-9 is really the most important part as far as the hiring, because you're not hired until the I-9's done, but those other 2 parts are important as well. So one of the things that has come up, and I don't know if you've even gotten there and you're thinking yet, Maria, but initially when we rolled this out, people had thoughts about, hey, is this going to take me an hour and a half? I have so much to do as a manager. I don't have not another minute to spend on anything new. So the good news is that the involvement, actually doing the new hire orientation, the I-9 piece, should only take 15 minutes or so. Might even be less than that if it's a real straightforward process, if the person's ready to go. And as you do it, you get more and more efficient. And again, it can be a very quick process. Unlike the corporate trainers who had maybe a group of as many as 25 if it was a SSC on a Saturday, or maybe multiple people at a time. For the most part, managers are hiring in smaller groups, so the I-9 process should be a really quick process. Okay. So to support you, and this is that in your packet, should be the next item, next handout in there, there's a checklist. And the checklist kind of goes through soup to nuts what this whole process is about, because again, we know that even though it's not a hard process, it's new. And if it's new, there's going to be things that fall off the radar. And you'll see that there's a top part here that talks about the onboarding overview, and that's UKG Pro process. And then the bottom part talks about the second system, which is Brainier. And some of this information I'm going to give you is going to be repetitive because I really want it to stick. So Kate, did you want to just unpack the process for the checklist? Because you'll notice that there are 2. Dun, dun, dun.
So we have 2 checklists here. They look almost exactly the same, except one of them has a place for you to sign at the bottom. So this is our accountability tool. And I want you to use the one that has the signature line on the bottom. Before we are done, I want you to feel comfortable with every step in this process. So if at any point throughout this or before we're done, you don't feel like you feel comfortable with step 3 or step 7, or you don't feel like we went into enough depth in any of these areas, this is your way to hold us accountable so that you know that you feel comfortable with this information, and we know that you feel comfortable with this information before you leave. And then the one without your signature, I want to see posted in every location behind the computer you're going to be completing onboarding on. I want to see this tool here, because like Tonette has said, this is your recipe for success. And even if it's something you've done 3 times this week, you want to make sure that you're just checking all those boxes. Even as a trainer that's been doing this for, the last year and a half, I still have a checklist that I use every time I complete a new hire orientation class to make sure that everything is done for every person. So this makes sure that you stay in compliance with every person that you're helping. And also, if you wind up with long periods of time in between onboarding people, it can serve as a refresher for what the next step is. But really, this is an accountability tool for us and for you when you're completing this, okay? And while we're going through it. Yes, ma'am.
Question.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So the managers or the hiring manager has instructions of where to place this document. Me, as a part of the sales floor, our merchandising manager, I also control all the signages that go on this floor and on the building. So I would like to do like a standard process for this document, if it's better to have it on a binder next to the computer in the training nook, or if you want it laminated in certain specific place, right, left, top, bottom, on the wall, so we can all be consistent. Because we all about, when we walk in any training nook, I wanted to see the document in the same place in every location, no matter the
Wow.
size of your training nook.
Well, and this is a tool mostly for the managers. So I would love to see this in their office behind the computer they're going to be completing the I-9 in. But I think it would also be beneficial to have in the training nook, because there are portions of it, this bottom half, the brainier section, will be completed inside of the training nook. So really, the binder in the training nook and the laminated checklist inside the office as well. Perfect. Thank you. That is a great question.
Yeah, that was a great question. And this is why it's so good is, to have this dialogue, because this is something that we've been sort of beating the drum for posting things. And sometimes people get busy and it just perhaps is, well, out of all the things that are being asked of individuals, that might be something that might not be top of mind. But I know that you are on the case, and that if you mandate it and make it part of a protocol, it will happen. So no, this is great. This is such a gift that you're in here. I really appreciate that. And so, I just wanted to just reiterate that when people have stepped outside of the lines, so to speak, and not followed this, it's been not looked at the handout. That's where things go sideways. So if it's not a character flaw to use the job aids. So I'll just stress that. Using the job aids is not something you have to do. Using the job aid is something that you get to do. This, think of it as a recipe. I use it quite a lot, because there might be something that you cook infrequently, like for Christmas or whatever your holiday or whatever your favorite dish is. You might only do it occasionally. Well, you might not remember the portion sizes. And if you get the wrong portion size for a particular, whether it be baking powder, baking soda, or getting the two mixed up, you can mess up. Yeah, this apple pie didn't taste right. It's because I forgot to put my nutmeg in. I forgot to put my secret recipe. Oh yeah, had I looked at my recipe. So don't be that person, because that we created this, and people really are finding success with this. So while we're talking about the various steps, if you could just play along and sort of refer back to this, because we really want you to get that muscle memory of of actually using, referring to those handouts, so that in real life, when you need it, you feel comfortable with it, and you're not having to rifle through. And that's why we gave you the folder and so forth, because we want it to be easy for you, so that when you need it, you can just pull it up. So having said that, we are going to just walk through. So I've highlighted certain steps, as we walk through the process, so you'll know what you should be looking at. So in the very beginning, what we're going to do is make sure that the person is ready to be scheduled for new hire orientation. So there are different ways to do that. And so first you want to go to the UKG Pro system, and we're going to demo this, and then we're going to access the I-9 form, and we'll be able to see on the within UKG Pro, we'll be able to see what status that person is, and that's when you schedule them. So I'm going to pump the brakes real quick. One of the questions that comes up, which is it's common, it totally makes sense. I've had managers ask me, what do the recruiters do? Am I going to be doing what the recruiters do? And it's not as a criticism, they just want to know what the line is. And so what I tell them, the line is the same line it's always been. The recruiter still will get the documentation, will start the process in terms of documenting, if it's a contingent form. Their part in it is make sure that the start date is included in the documentation that they give the recruiter. The background check still has to happen. The recruiter does all of that. And there's going to be email communication throughout to the store manager, letting them know where they are in the process. So the recruiters will do everything that the recruiters did in the past. Human resources, there's going to be an email that's going to be sent out to the new hire when their file is ready to go for them to complete information. All right, that's the first phase of the I-9. And again, the managers will be alerted that this has happened. They'll get an email saying that this email, that this person has completed their part, which is called part 1 of the I-9, okay? Once they do their part, their status is going to change to final review. So we'll talk about that, but where do you find final review? You're going to find it within UKG Pro, within that person's file. And also, second way that you're going to be alerted, so you can proactively go to the dashboard and find that person's record and see, oh, they're ready to go. I can schedule an appointment for them. The second way is you'll just check your inbox and you'll see that we have sent you an email. HR Human Resources has sent you an email that says, hey, this person has completed it. So that is the only time that a manager should be scheduling. And the reason I emphasize that is because we've had, and Kate, you've had this experience as well, and all the trainers have, managers will actually schedule a new hire, and then the new hire will get there, and then they've not done their part, which is out of a busy schedule, that's like 30 minutes of your life you'll never get back again. And don't you know, as managers, you got stuff to do. Am I right? You got stuff to do. So let's not waste each other's time. So what we want to just make sure that everybody is doing, following the process so that you're not wasting your time. Encourage your new hire to, complete the information that's sent to them. So in the interview, so as best practices, we've been encouraging managers to just let them know you're going to get a link. It's going to be a welcome email. Please fill that out because I can't train you and get you started so you can start making money, right? Until you finish your part. So look for that email. Okay? So I just wanted to kind of put that in perspective. So this is really about just determining if this person is ready for an interview. And again, this is all theoretical here, but we're going to show you the demo. Okay? All right, so next, how do managers know when the new hires are ready to attend orientation? We just kind of went through that, but we also have it listed here, and you can see it in your notes there. A notification will be sent to the assigned supervisory manager. Notice it says assign. The store manager is the assigned manager, okay, in the beginning. The exceptions to that are that the manager might be on vacation, and if that's the case, like this happened recently, a manager said, I have 2 people coming tomorrow, can you assign my ASM to complete this? Okay, and so that can easily be done. The other scenario is something that, Kate, you've experienced a lot, where people haven't had a store manager, or have, they had to we had to assign an ASM because that person was the dedicated person that was going to be doing it. You know, there wasn't a store manager, but there was an ASM that was there. And so we had to make some special arrangements, and we designated that person, you know, as being the point of contact. So there are always going to be situations like that that are unique, but there can only be one owner, has to be a person to anticipate questions here, has to be a person, can't be a store. It has to be a person. So you had your microphone. Did you have a question?
What I hear a lot is the people, when we tell them you will receive an email or link to complete the first part after, you know, the drug testing and the background check, normally they looking for the Goodwill email. And they always say, well, I never receive a Google email. Well, it doesn't come from Google. The link is from another, it's a hyperlink or something? 'Cause I
Actually-
translate a lot, and they just looking for the headed at Goodwill.
It actually does come from Goodwill.
It does?
Comes from Goodwill, and it has, and you know what, this will be a good time to actually show her that handout. I think I left it in the back here. Let me give you what we've done is we have created something, you know, to keep the managers in the loop about what the process is. Now, hear me when I say this. This is not something this is the I-9 process from the vantage point of the new hire. This is from when they receive the link and what they should complete. This is not something to task the managers to do. This is simply to keep the managers informed, and they can actually hand this to that person to say, this is what you should be expecting. And you
I like
sort of,
that.
yeah, right? And so what you'll see is they'll receive an email, and the email is from Goodwill, and in the subject line it says welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And so it is from Goodwill. But to your point, Maria, we do send a lot of emails out, and they are from Hire Right, and whoever does the urine part as well. I don't know all the different emails, but they come from different places.
Okay.
So it can be confusing, but this one actually comes from Goodwill, and it says welcome in the subject line.
Okay, perfect.
So good question. Yeah. And your thinking is definitely in alignment with the attendees that have attended in previous sessions that have asked that question as well. So you're thinking logically here. Totally
Okay,
making sense.
So then the other question is, if I know I am a manager and I'm assigned to do the I-9s.
Yes.
But I know I'm going on vacation
Yes.
for 2 weeks,
Yes.
what will be the process there?
Absolutely. Good point. So what we ask is that an email be sent to Human Resources at ging.org requesting that the new hires be assigned to the designated person.
One person, one assistant manager.
It can
I
only,
choose.
it only can be one per, great question. It can only be one person at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's just something, just the restraints in terms of, I would imagine it has to do with the fact that if you have one owner, there's a higher level of accountability. Exactly. You know that word was coming. Yeah. And if it has to be changed, as long as we know in enough time. So this is something that has happened, and this is sort of, wanting to underscore this, that we're mindful that HRIS, the Human Resource Information Systems team, HRIS, that they're not able to make those changes in real time. So if, for example, if you had somebody coming in 30 minutes, it would be challenging to have them change that. So if, to the extent that you can let people know in advance, the HRIS team, the Human Resources Information Systems team, to let them know that I'm going to be out tomorrow, or if you were this afternoon, you have someone coming in, you send that email to say they're going to be in the afternoon, to allow them the time to go in, because they're having to manage a lot of different pieces as well. And the other part, as a second part, we do have a support system in place. We want you certainly to do that, but if things happen, we know it. So as part of that support that we're talking about, all the 4 trainers will be accessible. So, and you'll have a flyer with the list of all the different trainers, so you can just contact all of us to say this needs to happen. And so that can happen in a clutch situation where you need that immediately. You didn't know. You know, things happen and you didn't know, so you might need to be the person doing the I-9. So, so we kind of thought about some plan Bs and Cs. And so, yeah, and so we've already gone through that. Is that pretty straightforward?
Yes.
Did you have- mhm.
I think of my biggest thing is if I'm gonna be out for 2 weeks, I would like to send an email and to the human resources,
Yes.
.org, and said, okay, I'm gonna be out from the 26th to June 10th.
Yes.
This person is gonna be, for that period of time, this person will be the one assigned. When I come back, I reverse it back again, right?
Yes, exactly. Perfect. That's right. All right. Very cool. All right. So I talked a lot about final review and so forth. I just wanted you to see what it looked like because you know, it was all theoretical, but this is actually what the screen looks like in UKG Pro, and that's what final review looks like. That tells you now, if you see that, what does that mean for you based on what I said? Can you recall? If they're in final review,
They're ready to fill the I-9.
boom! That's right. They're ready to do it. So you can go ahead and schedule the appointment to get them to fill it out. That's very, very cool. I love it. I love it. Thank you. And this is another example of, remember I said we're going to be communicating with you, and this is from Goodwill of North Georgia, and you're going to receive it, and it's going to let you know that, whoopsie, that completed onboarding. So that means that they've completed. Remember earlier I said that you're going to be informed that they're ready to schedule 2 different ways. One is final review, and the other is this email. Just letting you know. So we want you to know that this person is ready, and you know, if in fact it's been, so to anticipate a question that has come up, is that what happens if you put the request in, you filled out the paperwork, and it, you know, it's been 2 or 3 days, you've been checking, you've been looking at your email, you've been going to your UKG Pro, and they're not in final review. That's when you reach out to the recruiter so they can follow up on that process. If you're not seeing any kind of movement, so that they can follow up on that for you. All right. So again, just wanting you to know that the process really is still the same process. The only difference is that when it comes to the onboarding part, and you now have the flexibility of creating something that's on your schedule. So step 4 is schedule candidate to attend new hire orientation. And so let's schedule your start date. So the start date, it's just an, you know, what we're asking is that you schedule about 3 to 4 days out. You know, schedule that time out. You know, and what I mean by that is that when you're filling out your documentation, managers will ask, what is the start date? What start date should I put? And so we're encouraging you to put down 3-4 days in the future, because that incorporates the background check. You know, it incorporates them completing their I-9s. It incorporates them getting into the system. So there are a lot of steps in between. So you can put that start date. If the start date changes, if the, you know, actually if everything comes together a few days after that, that's fine. That's absolutely fine that happens. We just want you to communicate if in fact the start date changes. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. You know, we want you to communicate that. All right, so step 5 is verify section 1. And this is what it's going to look like. Section 1 is in UKG Pro. So again, you see the value of having the checklist, and the checklist will keep you honest. So that's in the checklist. Step 6 is verifying, completing section 2. And then again, we're going to show you this in the demo, but you see the value of the checklist. We're supporting you in the process. That's where you actually complete the I-9 in section 2. All right, so we sort of went through quite a bit just in that little period of time. What questions do you have? Do you see how I was just following the checklist? Because I want you all to follow the checklist. Again, not as a have to, but just as a support for you. Because we're not getting this back from you to say, did you follow the checklist? We're not doing that. We'll know because we'll get notified from HRIS that stuff hasn't been done. And that's when we'll know the checklist wasn't followed. That's the only way we'll know. We give that to you so that that doesn't happen. So that, because everybody wants a gold star, right? Everybody wants that. Nobody wants to be, spotlighted to say that a mistake, a human mistake was made. Everybody wants to win, right? Everybody wants to win. So now, having gone through that part, let's look at the I-9 process. We will have folks in the class that will sometimes have zero experience with I-9. We're blessed today because you actually know what I-9 is about. So we always like to just level set for everybody in the room because we don't want to speak above anybody. And so just having said that, we just sort of, just go over a few points about the I-9, how important it is that it used to be paper, and now we have UKG Pro to really streamline the process. And Section 1 was the part that the employee filled out, and Section 2 was the part that we filled out. And what do I mean by that? The employee will provide information about their status, citizenship status, and we have to verify that what they said is true. So our part in the process is verifying identity. Now, this is not something that's a goodwill thing. This is something that's the federal government. And I think we all know that this is something that we have to do. It's not something that we are doing that's unique and that all employers have to complete it. What we're doing is verifying two things that's important: identity and work authorization. That's what the I-9 does, identity plus work authorization. Once we get into the UKG Pro system, we have a lot of support for you, and that there are links that are embedded, because none of us are experts at every bit of ID, different scenarios. I mean, there's permanent residence cards, employment authorization documents, there are passports, there are foreign passports with I-551 stamps, and there are a lot of different processes. There's no shame with checking resources, and I do it all the time. It's just being comfortable with checking the resources. And so what's already baked into UKG Pro, there's a link that goes to the federal government. So for these unique IDs, you can actually just review, and they tell you what category it is, List A or List B. List A would be IDs that meet both the identity and work authorization, okay? List B meets one of them, and List C the other. So if a person doesn't have a List A, for example, a passport is a List A ID, which is work authorization plus identity, whereas a driver's license only meets one of those. And we probably can guess. What do you think? Driver's license, would that be identity or work authorization? Identity, exactly. And so we would then need the other piece, and that would be category C. And so we're going to talk more about that. So as you see here, List A, long laundry list, and this is actually included in the presentation. It's a drop down that you'll see in UKG Pro in the software, and also there's a link that is embedded where you can go to the federal government site where there are pictures of the ID. So that's the beauty of it. That's the distinction between those two. And then where you see here, again, using the example of the driver's license is part of List B, and you've already shared that that's part of the identity part. But if there's a List B, then it has to be a combo. It's going to have to be two pieces of ID, whereas a List A rather, is just one ID. It's a one and done. All right. Just some reminders. Approved IDs is just approved document is just so important, because sometimes people with the purest of intentions, they will provide IDs that are not approved. They might have a peach card, a Medicaid card. These are real situations. I'm trying to think of some. Kate, can you think of any just unusual ones that have come up? I know that a leasing agreement. A leasing agreement. This is a lot of Medicaid cards. Yeah, and so the thing is that people are just in their mind, they're saying, I'm proving to you that I'm legitimate. So I'm giving you credit card statements. I've seen that, right? And so, so we just have to not be, as they try to persuade us, this is a valuable piece of ID. We know that we only can accept what the government says is an official document. And so, no copies, only original IDs. And so that's the big thing too, because nowadays copies are kind of, they're nice, the color copies, and you can be fooled. That's why it's always good to, check the paper quality, make sure that, depending on the ID, the watermark. Sometimes, like with certain things, they'll say you can't copy, and if you do make a copy, they have this watermark that says, that it's not, yeah, exactly. It's not a legitimate piece of ID. And you could also turn on the back as well, because if most people aren't that good to be able to make a copy that does it on both sides. Yeah. So did you have a question? I just want to make sure.
I think it is a good reminder for the manager who's going to be doing the I-9 to tell the people ahead, because now with technology, a lot of people just use the phones, and we have pictures of our IDs, even credit cards. I mean, you pay with your phone everywhere, so people don't carry the actual ID. When they come to fill in the I-9, they don't have that, I had to send you back to come back with the original ID.
Right.
Because a lot of people comes with that technology.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And so throughout this journey, we've had that question come up a few times. So your thinking is right in alignment with with what managers are thinking about and what they're encountering. And so what we have gotten to a point where we've suggested best practices would be during the interview process, when you know that person's going to the next level, when you're going to green light them with the recruiter, that in that conversation you do that. And some managers have gone as far as to say that they say bring IDs to the interview so that if there's a problem, we can identify it. So yeah, so that's another thing. It's one of those best practices to get ahead of it, because again, if they bring the ID there and it turns out that the ID is expired, you know that when you get to the I-9 part, they're not going to be able to complete it. So you can say to them, for example, driver's license, that they can go and get that renewed, and or if they don't have an ID, if they want to get an ID, they can go and go ahead and apply, and there's a receipt that is a legitimate ID. So we do accept formal official receipts, and it actually will say that it is a receipt used for, I believe it's 2 weeks. And so as long as it's within that 2-week period, they can come back, and then you can utilize that.
That was my next question. With the Social Security, a lot of the teenagers, they don't have the Social Security. So back in the day, we used to tell them, go and apply and bring the letter, because they will give you a letter until the time that you get the actual card. So that is still acceptable.
That is still acceptable. So that is something that has not changed. So that's a good. And what I will say is that with the Social Security documentation, the Social Security receipt, we have to be mindful that if you're having those conversations about going to, like say in that interview situation where you've green lighted them and you're talking about different types of options for them, that if social is the option that they choose, that they know that it has to be the official receipt from applying. And because there is a printout that the Social Security office can give you that's not an official receipt. It has to be the official receipt. You've seen it before because you sent a letter where it says the social is on there. It has the person's name. It says that it is a receipt, and I believe it's 120 days. The whole thing. So it has to be that one. So you can coach them a little bit in the interview process once you know that you're going to move forward with them, so that they bring what's needed, and we don't have to send them away. To piggyback on what you said, we don't want to send anybody away. All right. So what if the new hire does not have correct documents? After all this work you've done, and they still show up with something wrong, what do you think we do? You know what to do. You know what to do. You do what you always do. You keep calm, and you bring your sense of humor. Yes. and you trust the process and you just reschedule. So that's the beauty of it, because that part is going to be a lot quicker than it would be, again, if they're coming to a new hire on a Saturday, or the new hire, let's say it's not a Saturday new hire, say it's just one of those new hires is once a week. So instead of it being, at corporate, we have new hire on Thursday. If they came to Thursday new hire and then they didn't have their ID, they would have to wait until next Thursday in order to get it done. Whereas if they're in the store, they can just go get it handled, perhaps come schedule time to come in that afternoon or the next day. Yep. So again, it's a lot cleaner. So we just return with the correct documents and reschedule their start date. All right. So what we've done is we have, just to kind of make you even more comfortable with this process, there is a link, a somewhat funny link, some sketchy looking IDs. So I just want to encourage you, we don't have the bandwidth right now, but I would encourage you to take a peek at this video when you have time, so that you can get more and more comfortable with IDs, so that when you're in that situation, when somebody brings you something, you can feel more comfortable with that process. So definitely want to support you, and this is the actual link there, the URL there, and we'll send you a follow-up communication that has the embedded link as well. But just if you want to move on that and want to dig a little bit deeper, I encourage you to do so.
Here is a list of it.
Okay, you see. Yeah, it's kind of loud, right? Sorry about that. All right, so we're just moving along. I'm going to do my little time check here. We're doing good. All right, so we have found that some of the little butterflies come up when dealing with certain IDs. All right, so we've already talked about passports, and people know what passports look like. So passports, you open it up and the number's right there and expiration date's right there. So you don't really have to look around for where the information is. Unlike this ID, for many, this is something that's going to throw you off. You see all these digits and you see all these numbers here. And and our instincts might be what? To just go to the front of the card. But it turns out that it's better to go to the back of the card.
That's where the
Okay?
valuable information is.
Yeah, that's where it is, right? And so to help people, we just pulled out some of these special considerations for IDs that you don't see very often and can be a little intimidating when you do see it. So you turn to the back of the card, and so the information, when we ask for the permanent resident card, it's actually alphanumeric. It's going to be the last 10 digits and 3 preceding numbers on the top row. So we just highlighted that for you. So it's the 3 letters and the 10 digits. That is the alphanumeric code for the permanent resident card. So, and the numbers, turns out, is where they entered the U.S. That's the code for that. So that's the information you should put in, and then the expiration date is on the front of the card. So that's the information that you're going to put in. All right, so another example, because I don't want anybody to think that there's only one look to the permanent resident card. They might, if they only saw this one in the presentation, if they saw this one, they might think that this is a fraudulent one. But this is actually a different type of permanent resident card, but equally legitimate. Okay, but the formula is still the same. It's still the back of the card, the last. I go from right to left because when you see so many numbers like that, it can be a little confusing. But if you go to the top line in the back of the card, and you just start, and this the 10 digits from left, at the top there, and then the 3 preceding letters. So in this example, it's IOE, and then those 10 numbers rather, and that's the code there. So you're seeing a formula here. The other ID that's similar to this one, and it's actually for aliens authorized to work, is called the Employment Authorization Document. Also, you'll see EAD often, And it follows the same formula. You see it. Oopsie. There. 3 digits, 10 numbers. 3 letters, 10 numbers. All right. And the information, expiration date, is all on the front, but most of the good information, to your point, is on the back of the card. And when I say the good information, I mean the actual number that we're going to be using. So we don't use the numbers on the front because sometimes they can be different. And so, like in this scenario, the numbers are the same, but sometimes they're not. And because of that, we just always go to the back of the card. All right, so we just wanted to let you see that because that is one that comes up commonly, as a big question mark for people. So we gave you that document. So have that document close by too, especially in the early days when you're getting used to doing UKG Pro, doing your I-9, and you haven't quite gotten used to utilizing the link and all of that. You can use your handout. So that's why we made it big so you could see it. So here, what you're going to see are examples of List B and examples of List C. And we didn't put everything. We just wanted you to see, just something that is easily recognizable to you. And so List B, it helps with identifying what? Identity. And what about List C? What does that do for us? Remember, identity is one, and then the other thing that we're also having to, pardon? Eligibility or work authorization. Yeah, exactly. And so, drivers, we gave you examples of a driver's license and ID, and for List B for identity, and for List C for work authorization, a social security card, birth certificate. All right, next, when a person is under 18 years old, we have so many other options for them. And people are surprised by this. They're surprised that we accept daycare or nursery school records for List B. So for identity, because, as a young person, they may not have some of those other pieces of ID, but we do allow them to provide school records or report cards, clinic, doctor or hospital records, daycare or nursery school record. But here's the key. They also have to provide List C. Remember, and the List C before was the social or birth certificate or anything else that's in that list. And I'll show you some other options as well. So List B for identity, they have a little bit more flexibility because of their age. All right. So these are some examples. For example, we do accept the student ID as for identity for List B, as well as a report card. And for List C, the social and the birth certificate are just some examples. We're really emphasizing examples because what we don't want to do is that we don't want to force or even suggest to the new hire which document to use. And the reason why is that there are so many different options that exist that we might be signaling to that new hire. If we ask, do you have a driver's license or an ID? If we say that, might that new hire think that's the only options that are acceptable? So it's important that we lean in and that we ask them, give them all kinds of options. What I've done is I've had people, when we've done it face-to-face, I've had them come around and look at my computer, and I've shown them a drop down. I said, do you have any of these? And I remember being so surprised when I first started. I've been doing this for 7 years, but being so surprised that for identity, voter registration actually is acceptable. Exactly. So, because sometimes people think you have to have a picture for the ID, and you don't. And so a person did not have what I thought she was bringing, and again, this is, when I first started, but she had a voter registration card. So I was able to use that. So we don't want to just prematurely dismiss someone because they might have something else on that list. All right, we want to make sure we're checking for expiration dates. We want to make sure that it's, as we said earlier, that we are using original documents, and that we are not just willy-nilly photocopying. I was told that in the past, that was something that we did. We made copies. And I think that it was one of those things that people were doing because maybe they got busy and they didn't have time to enter the information. So maybe they took a picture of it so later on they could enter it. That could be something, or just as a precautionary measure, I'm going to keep it in my file. But you know, that puts that person's information at risk. So we don't do that. Now there might be a case where if there is something that comes back from E-Verify, which is the portal that the federal government has set up to verify that this person's information in fact is legitimate, they might come back to Human Resources, HRIS, Information Systems Group, and say, hey, we need a little bit more for this person. And if that's the case, what will happen is they will reach out to the store manager through email and ask them to make a copy of a certain piece of ID and to send it to humanresources@ging.org. We only make copies when it's requested, prompted by that group. Okay? All right. All right. So next, I want to pause and ask you if you have any questions. Okay. No, good. We want questions.
So what is the process in that case? So I got the email from HRIS.
Yes.
And I had to make a copy.
Yes.
And submit it to the email. What is the process? What do I do with that copy? Do we have a weight disposal? Or we send the original copy with the HR business partner?
Right. So did you want, let's give you that. Look, she's going to come over. Mm-hmm.
So really, rather than making a physical copy, what you would want to do is scan the documents and then email those to the HRIS team. So,
And then I delete the email, delete it to get it out because it's gonna be there.
yeah, it's only going to happen if they're specifically requesting a document. So, yeah, so then I would just scan it out. You could potentially scan it directly from a scanner, if that makes sense, to the human resources, although you would want to make sure that there's a title in there rather than scanned image from Decatur, floor 1, you know what I mean? So just make sure that you are,
I need 9 verification documents or something.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Right.
from store, whichever. Although I would probably also send a copy to the store just to make sure that it's gone through. And your process for dealing with that in compliance afterwards is, I'm gonna leave that to you.
Right. So, good point, Kate, because they probably already have something in place where you shred things, or do you have like a shredder or anything like
If we
that?
had the original copies, like the paper copy,
Yes.
yes. But if it's on the email, I'm just a little bit worried because it's so sensitive with the documents and
Right.
the numbers and everything that if I
should be
email
deleting
it,
it, yeah.
I should be deleting and then go into the deleted folder and delete it from the deleted so nobody can get into that information.
You're absolutely right. You're thinking about it is 100%. So the things that Kate said about scanning, absolutely, and whatever that process is, which I think is on point, is making sure that there's no trail, even if it's a soft trail electronically on your system.
Yes.
So very, very good point. And that's something we can also reinforce even more at that level in our future training. So thank you for that. So there are 2 systems that we're going to be exploring, and which is really, that's where it all comes together when you see how the data entry works. We're going to be going through the UKG system, which is, again, identity and employment authorization. We're going to enter that, and then we're going to show the process for that new hire to be able to watch that video. And so there's a self-registration process, and the video, of course, covers a lot of compliance things because we talk about safety and how to play nice in the sandbox, as well as resources in terms of benefits, et cetera. So we definitely want people to get all of the information. And also what I think is really great about that presentation is that it shows where you can get information later. In your packet, we have provided a packet actually at the back is the welcome packet. And so in that welcome packet, there's a lot of information. I think that you're going to really appreciate that. I always encourage the managers to look at it. It's a thick packet of information. It looks like this, and I included it, the last one. So this is what we're currently giving our new hires, so as a leave behind, because we don't expect people to memorize things. And what we do want to set them up for success. So this is something that, like a reference document they can refer back to. It has everything in there, things about benefits and things about how to set up your benefits. That nice board there, what the compliance board looks like, workers' comp board, just so many goodies in there. And so we're giving that to new hires now. And so I encourage the managers to take a peek at it. And there might be some things you want to flag in there. So that you make sure that that person, that new hire has what they need and that they're empowered, so that they are not having to necessarily lean so heavily on you because the information speaks for itself. So, yeah, definitely encourage you to take a peek at that. All right, so without any further ado, what we're going to do is now we're going to pivot and I'm going to show you what the UKG process is. Okay, and just bear in mind that we're going to be utilizing our job aids for that. And so we have a demo account, and it's Mr. New Hire. You've probably seen this face many a time. Many a time. All right, and so this is one of you're going to be seeing this quite a bit. There's some things we want to make sure that people are clear that we should be selecting. One of which is we should only be clicking on one link, and when you get there, you'll know it, but the link is Form I-9. That is the only thing. You notice these big red X's here? When people have gone outside the lines, they have clicked on other things here. One of which is that danger zone. I love it. E-Verify is a no-no, and review and submit is a no-no. You think the big red X's? Yeah, I think that's pretty crystal clear. So you're gonna see this quite a bit. So get ready for that. So let's just take a pause, and I'm going to transition into UKG Pro so that you can see that. Now, you know how UKG Pro is. You can't go in too early because it'll time you out. So it won't take me but a minute to log in.
And so while she's doing that, let's go ahead and review our checklist. Oh. So loud. Amen. Right here. All right, so while she's pulling this up, let's go ahead and take a look at our new hire orientation training checklist. All right, so we should feel pretty confident in accessing UKG Pro admin dashboard. How do you feel about that? Step one. Okay, awesome. And how about accessing the I-9 form? She sort of showed you where you would see that, right? Verifying that they are in final review. We understand that step? Feel good about it? Excellent. How about when we schedule the candidate to attend new hire orientation? Do you remember when we're supposed to do that?
Yeah, 4 days after.
Yep. And then once they're in which status? Do you remember?
Say it loud. Final review.
Yay! All right. And then she's going to go into depth on the remainder of what we need to do, but that takes us all the way from when the candidate is hired until they're sitting in front of you. And now we're going to take a look at what it's going to look like while they're sitting in front of you when you're opening UKG to process that next portion.
All right. So thank you so much, Kate, for that. And so what you're seeing on the screen is found in the handout that has at the header, completing I-9 self-register, section 2. So it's going to be after self-register. You have a one-sheeter that says self-register. Right after that, it has another handout that says completing I-9. So as I'm walking through this, if you could refer to this, because what I want you all to do, and as I said before, is to get comfortable with utilizing the job aid and just recognizing what the job aid is supporting you, what tasks they're supporting you at completing. So now, as I go through, if you look at the job, and all of this, by the way, is on the checklist, but we know that people learn differently, so you have a checklist, but this actually gives you pictures with it. The checklist doesn't have pictures, but this one does, so you can, utilize this as well if that's something that supports you better. So the first thing you want to do is go to the administration function. And so I know as managers, you actually have I think you have 4 or even 5 icons, but you go to the one that says administration, and it will say that on the hypertext. And then you would go to employee admin. So sometimes that might be collapsed. So just know that if that's the case, when you see a V, that it has more information underneath that. So the next step would be to click on onboarding gateway. So under employee admin, onboarding gateway is the next step. So what you're going to see is the big 18,000 foot view from the corporate trainer HR side of things. So everybody that's been hired, I have access to seeing. You, on the other hand, as a manager, will only see the folks that are assigned to your store. So where it says over 999 plus, it will probably say 2 or 3. I mean, to be realistic. And the thing is that what you will also see, you'll see a list of names here of the 2 or 3 people that are in the queue, that are in the pipeline. And what do I mean by that, in the pipeline? So a person might be in launch status. Launch means that we have launched an email to that new hire. So we're waiting for them to complete their part of the information. That's that welcome handout I gave you. So once they get, once we send out that information for them to complete their onboarding steps, the status will be launched for them. Okay? And what's the status that tells us that they are ready to schedule an appointment? Final review. So when you come in here and you used to look at check their profile and they're in final review, then you schedule the appointment. So what I wanted to just call out is that you'll see a list of names here, but don't we know that employees start when we think they should, the date they agreed on, maybe something's happening in their lives, they have to keep pushing back. Notice it says start date within 2 weeks. So if a person was supposed to start a month ago and they, for whatever reason, something happened, they had a vacation scheduled, like some incident, something that delayed them, life got in the way, they're not going to be here. So what we want people to do, managers to do, is go to in progress. I don't want anybody to be frustrated because they didn't see someone's name down here. Okay? And so that's a very easy thing to do. Instinctively, if you see names that you recognize, of course you're thinking, of course the person should be here. I've had managers call me to say, hey, I don't see the person here, so they thought there was a problem. Well, it turned out the person was scheduled to start a month before. So what we ask is that you go to in progress. I just made the case for why we have the process set up the way we have it set up. We want to go to in progress on the side, because here it's going to have everybody. Even if a person was supposed to start 6 weeks ago, they're still going to be here. Okay? So most of the time, your list is going to be really short. I would say 99.9% of the time. And you're only going to see maybe 2 or 3 names. But if the list is longer than that, you might want to do a search. And to do a search, you would just put the person's name in. Like I said, you probably are not going to have to do that, but just know that if you do need to search, you can just type the name into that field there. So in this situation, this is probably what you're going to see, like 2 or 3 names that look just like this. Our example of the new hire is Mr. New Hire, and he's assigned to, you see who he's assigned to, and it's going to be whatever store you're the owner of, that you're the store manager or ASM at. A lot of good information here, but what I want you to recognize is when we talk about their status on the dashboard, now you know what we're talking about. It says the person's in final review, right? And so we know we can go ahead.
I-9.
Yeah, we can do their I-9. We can schedule an appointment, and at that appointment, we'll do their I-9. Absolutely. So you're absolutely right. So this might be as far as you would go if you were just checking to schedule the appointment. This is as far as you would go. But once you schedule the appointment, you would get to this point, but now you're going to go in and you're going to complete their I-9. So you can come in to do a status check, or you can come in to actually complete the I-9. So I was talking in that just a moment ago, and I just want to make sure I didn't go too quickly. So in order to open up their record to complete their I-9, you click on New Hire. And from there, that opens up this task page.
Well, in this case, it will be the team member's name.
The team member's name, exactly. Yeah. It won't say new hire. It'll be the team member's name. Absolutely. Keep me honest, Maria. Keep me honest. Keep me on task. All right. So what do you click? Based on the flyer that the slide I just showed you a little while ago, what is the only thing you should click on?
I would say just in progress.
The what?
The in progress.
You're in progress to get to
The
yeah.
status.
In progress to get to the page that, with the person's name on it. So absolutely, you would have clicked on in progress to get to that page. And sort of to go back a step here, you would have clicked on and to go, we were here. And
Now, if we are right here,
we're here, we would click on.
and if I'm showing lounge, how many days should I expect before I make a phone call or something? Because I think that's where sometimes we miss that opportunity. There's so many days that people might stay in the lounge, but they say they haven't received that email or they don't know where to look. Sometimes it goes in the spam folder, and it's so many other places that can go on the phone. I had to sometimes help. I don't have to, but I've been helping people
Right.
when they don't speak English, and I had to walk them through, like, look in your spam folder, look it in your, whatever security you have on your phone in order to get to that email.
Right.
So they can fill the paperwork. So how many days should I expect if I'm in lounge? Like 2 days, and then call them and said, hey, the email was sent out and we cannot move forward until you finish that step.
Okay. And Kate's going to answer that one.
Sure. So that's a great question. So officially, it is up to the recruiter to get them to that step, to get them into final review. So one of the things you may want to do is reach out to the recruiter and follow up with them and just let them know that they have not completed their online paperwork. Another step that you'll be able to do that Tonette will show you once she opens up the candidate will be to resend that welcome email. Once you have ownership of them, you'll be able to resend that welcome email, and it will allow you to confirm their email address. So if you want to be proactive about it, you see that they're in launch status, maybe a day has gone by, I would, it depends a lot on your urgency as far as the time frame, but I would make this follow-up as soon as possible. And you'll be able to see their phone number, you'll be able to see their email, and when you do the resend welcome link, you'll be able to see the email that's in the system to confirm that with them to make sure that it's going to the right place.
All right, very, very good, very good. So, because that's a question that comes up, and one of those things that when they come to you, because they will, because you'll see them, now you can feel more confident in responding. So to your point, you're absolutely right. In progress will get us to this page here, right? And so, and this is where we check to see, their status. And now that we know that they're in final review and they're now in front of you because you've scheduled the appointment. So from here, we want you to click on the new hire's name, okay? And there is only one link that you should ever click on to start the I-9. So I guess you would say clicking on the link gets us to the task list, but to actually officially start the I-9, you only click on Form I-9. So remember that page I showed you a little while ago with the big X's on it? The X's on these other options on this page, because the only green check that was stressed or emphasized was beside Form I-9. That's the only thing we click on. So just wanted to emphasize that, because sometimes, you know, to use the words of managers, they get trigger happy, and what ends up happening is they'll click these other things, but you only should click on I-9. All right, so here we go. So earlier I showed you how this correlated with the checklist. And one of the things I showed you earlier was on the checklist it says check section 1. Section 1 is what the new hire has completed. So they've given you, say, a driver's license, and they've given you a social. And so what you want to do is check to see what they entered on section 1. So if their social is right in front of you, then you can check to see if what they entered is correct, okay? In this instance, the person's citizenship is their lawful permanent resident, so they should, in theory, have a resident card. So that should be in front of you. Yeah, and if it's not, that could be something we're going to talk about that. That's good information to know. But let's keep it simple. If the person is utilizing their Social Security card as their ID, say if they were just using that and the numbers were different, you would see that on your card you see 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, but you see they typed 4, 5. So this is such a proactive step, because if they just did a data entry error, we can fix it. We can fix it. This is not a tragedy. All we need to do is click request correction from new hire, and in real time, like within a minute, we can indicate here that we want to change, whatever the situation is. If their name is Joseph, but they put JoJo, which is not their official name, it's their nickname, we got to change that. If they, the address that they put, I've had people put DeKalb, Georgia. Well, there is no DeKalb, Georgia. It's Decatur, Georgia. DeKalb is the county. So we need to change that, right? Date of birth. If you have something that has their date of birth on it and they happen to they typed in 2000 and, you would like to think that the system would have caught it, but something that was obviously wrong. So this is a list of things that we can correct in real time. You would just indicate what needs to be corrected here, and then at the bottom you would click send correction request, and it goes to their phone, and in real time they would open up their email, they would go into the link and then correct the bit of information that we need edited, updated, and then they would click submit. We would have to refresh the page, because on this page, the old information's there, and we would refresh it up here, and what you'll end up seeing is that message that says reload, and you'll see it says corrected. So now when you look at, say in this example, the social, we'll check the social, and now the social should be right, or the address or the name or whatever it was we were trying to update. So it's important to do that, because when we get to the section where you have to enter the ID information, if the information is like garbage in, garbage out, if the information is incorrect here, then it's going to cause an error later on. So we want to make sure that the information is correct. We would have checked that. Now we can just go, and most of the time it is. It really is. Most of the time you don't have to do this. I'm just giving you the scenario when you will have to do that. And if you have to do it, rather than duplicate effort, you want to check it on the front end versus getting into section 2 only to realize that a mistake was made. Then you have to go back to section 1, and then come back to section 2. So just do it this way, and it's a one and done. Just check it it's a best practice. And we do have that in the notes to remind people to do that. So in this situation, let's use a simple example of a person gave us a driver's license and a social security card. In a situation like that, so just to see how good your memory is, can you remember if a driver's license is considered, is that going to be for work authorization? If they gave you a driver's license?
Identification.
Exactly. It's going to be, it's for identity,
That's
right?
B and C.
Exactly, because you've done this before. This isn't your first time. So you would click on the type of ID category, whatever the ID category is, if it's a BC or a list A type of documentation. And what you'll see are two columns, list B column, list C column. And just notice that where you see the little red asterisk, that says that it's mandatory. Most of the time, 99% of the time, there is something that is mandatory that it doesn't have an asterisk by it, but most of the time it does. And I'll show you when we get to when we get there. So what you always want to do is click on the drop-down menu. You look at the different options, and you see there are quite a bit. That's why we don't want to lead anybody in a certain direction, because they might have something else that meets the criteria. But in this case, we said we wanted a driver's license. That's what we're looking for, because that's what the person provided. So we click on driver's license. And what do you think we click on if the person gave us a receipt for a driver's license, the official receipt? If you were to look at that, do you see anything that stands out?
Yeah, the second box, document or receipt.
Yeah, you would click that if they gave us a receipt. Okay. In this case, we're not going that route. We're going to just go straightforward. So document number, you put that in, whatever that is, and then issuing authority. Again, it has a little red asterisk by it. That
The
just
state.
means the state, and any of these states will be applicable. So we're going to put Georgia. And expiration date, you can type it in, or you could use the widget, which is to say you click that and click the year, then click the month and click the date. Or if you like it old school, you could just type it in. Okay, and that's that. So once that's done, because you have, when there's a B, there always has to be a what?
A C.
A C. So then you go to the C column, and then you again, same process. What ID is in front of me? Let's look at what my options are. Oh, I have the social in front of me. So I click the social. Okay, did you have a question? Or you just have it poised ready? All right.
Ready.
You're just ready to go. All right, so then you pick the social, and then what happens if they have one of those official documents with, the official receipt that says that it's an official receipt and it has the social and the name and all that good stuff on it? What do you do? Would you just go to write the document number there? What do you
Well,
think?
you had to check the document.
Yeah, if it's a receipt, that's like a special box. And see, it doesn't have the little asterisk there or anything because it's optional, because it might not be a receipt. That's why it doesn't have it. All right, so in this scenario, we're just going to put this information here, whatever the social is. And actually, why don't I use the real number so it doesn't cause a problem later? Yeah. All right, so, and then again, a little red asterisk there. We click on the down button. So believe it or not, it may not say Social Security Administration on the back. It might say one of these other three
The
options.
Department of Health and Education and Welfare. We have a lot of those.
Exactly. So whatever it says on the back of the card is what we select. So we'll just, for the sake of this example, use the first one, but it could be the other ones. And so even though this has an asterisk, your Social Security number card does not have an expiration date. So it's grayed out. All right. So like with any online document, you do have to sign it. And this situation, we also have to, we call it certification. And the first part of certification is the start date. Now, the start date is always going to be the date that you're doing this. So today, for example, it would be today's date, May the 12th. Okay. Now, the thing that I want to stress is that what happens if I had someone that was trying to come in for onboarding and we really thought they would be an awesome candidate, and we need people, that it was April the 25th was what we put as their original start date. Okay. But they're coming in May 12th. So in a perfect world, you would have emailed HRIS, Human Resources at ging.org, to let them know that this person that had a start date a month ago is actually starting today. You would have emailed that to them. Okay, so that's important. So you don't change it. I mean, it is today's date, but we want to communicate that. It's just easier for them to locate the person if they know that it's a date from a month ago. So we want to make sure that you communicate that. So that's actually in the handout, and we have it a few more times in the presentation. All right, so having said that, we're going to scroll down. And so this doesn't have an asterisk by it. I told you I was going to tell you the exception to the rule. Doesn't have an asterisk, but it is something that's mandatory, and the system will not allow you to go forward and sign until this is clicked. And where this is, it's just an official verbiage here that says, I attest under law that, et cetera, that I examine the documents. You're saying that you actually took time to look at it, make sure it was real, check the back of it, et cetera, right? So assuming all that happened, and it should be a yes, you click that, and then type your name as your signature. So this is something that I always like to just remind people. So this has an auto-correct, auto-populate function. So notice when I clicked in there, a lot of different things that I have entered will come up. And the tendency is for me to just go ahead and click on something that's already there. We shouldn't do that. We should always type the name fully, because if I click on one of these other options, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to change all of this information that's attached to that auto-populate. And so instead of it being Stockbridge Store and connected to their file, it's going to be whatever my information was. So that's just one of those things I had to learn the hard way. So I just, lesson learned. I'm sharing my wisdom with you guys. So just go ahead, even though it's easier to click my name that's in the auto box, type in your name is better way to go. And then you see that green button came up, and you would click sign. I'm not going to do that because we have an example. Kate, did you want to share anything there? Not for this part? Okay. All right. So, and you're not shy. Just give me the signal. Give me the signal to make sure, to keep me honest. All right. So that's how that's done, pretty much. And I just want to also just kind of clear this real quick. Pardon? We have not talked about birth certificate. Okay, right. Okay. Mm-hmm. You might want to do it here, the drop down here, the red flag. Yeah, you explained that so well too. You really do. Mm-hmm.
That I really want to point out about how this system is going to set you up for success. If we look in Section C, what are some of the things that we usually think of as employment authorization? I mean, I think we entered in Social Security card. What's another one that people generally bring in for that? Birth certificate. That's right. But if we click on this box right now.
Oops, sir. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Do we see birth certificate? That's not a birth certificate, though. Why wouldn't a birth certificate be here? What's the reason why a birth certificate might not be here?
That's not an authorization for employment.
That's right. It's not an authorization for employment if they are a permanent resident. So this particular candidate is a permanent resident, and a birth certificate wouldn't prove their ability to work because it's going to be for a different country. And the U.S. is one of the few places in the world where being born someplace actually provides you with citizenship. So that's why we're able to utilize birth certificates there. All right? But you see the system already auto-populates your options. So it's not going to let you pick the wrong thing. And if they bring in a birth certificate and you're not seeing it, what are some conclusions that you might be able to make if it's a birth certificate from Texas? If it's a birth certificate. So we may want to go back over to Section 1, right, and see what they put for their citizenship status. Because if they hand me a birth certificate and I'm not seeing it on that option, let's click over there right quick. We can see that they put in that they're a lawful permanent resident. And Now, especially for folks that English may not be their first language or literacy may not be their strong suit, these are loaded words here. You know, I'm a lawful permanent resident. Well, as a citizen, I'm legally here permanently, right? You know, as an alien authorized to work, you may go, oh, well, I'm legally here, right? I'm here legally, and you're going to select those options. So the system won't let you put the wrong supporting document in based off of their citizenship status they selected. Now, just like we might want to change their name or their social security number if they put in something funny, we want to go back in and request that they change their citizenship status if it's incorrect. And sometimes people do that. It happens quite a bit, actually, where usually they're switching up lawful permanent resident and alien authorized to work. But it has happened where it's a citizen and they've put in that they're a lawful permanent resident and so forth. So the system is not going to allow you to put in the wrong supporting documents based off of their citizenship status. And it's going to continue to support you throughout this process. So this is just one of the ways that it's going to support you there. And you easily can request that correction request and have that done within 1 or 2 minutes right in front of you. So anyway, that was it.
No, that's a very good point, and that's kind of next level. That's kind of next level in that there are cues that will let you know if things are not as it appears. You know, we just want you to, when those flags come up, we want you to be able to recognize those flags. You know, recognize that 2 and 2 is equal in 6, and that doesn't make sense. And so thank you so much for that, Kate, that if a person is a citizen, because they gave you a birth certificate, then that means that if they put that they were a permanent resident, that means that they did a data entry error. So that's the so what of that. And in the beginning, when you're learning the different systems and whatnot, lean on resources, lean on those links, lean on us, because we want you to get comfortable so that you can identify those flags even quicker. Okay? So, having said that, we're going to go back to section 2. And so, you know how before I mentioned we were using our driver's license as an example? Let's use the example, since we're talking about permanent resident card, we're using this one profile is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. We're using him as a lot of different examples. So just say that he is a permanent resident. Mr. New Hire is a permanent resident. So in that situation, let's kind of go back to, I'm going to go back to here. Mr. New Hire is a permanent resident. And so he provides us with a permanent resident card. I click on Form I-9. Remember, that's the only link, right? We don't click on what? What don't we click on? Anything else. I love it. That's exactly right. And by the way, we have candy here. We haven't been teasing you with the candy because I know you're not a big candy person. So, but yeah. All right. You're better than I, because I would have had it yesterday, today, an hour ago. Yeah, on the car on the way home. You got that right. So at any rate, so in this second example, this person, Mr. New Hire, we're doing an I-9 for him, and we're clicking on Form I-9. We're clicking on Form I-9, and we've already verified their identity in Section 1, so we know that their information is correct. So he's giving you a permanent resident card. That's what he's giving you as his ID. All right. So is permanent resident card, is that identity? Is that work authorization? It is both, right? And that was really a trick question because, I just, for the first time talked about it a few minutes ago. It's like, I knew you, because you're a good student, would remember that, but I didn't. It would have been completely okay if you didn't. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. So here's the deal. Permanent resident card does do both. It's the identity plus work authorization. So remember, if it has a red asterisk, that's something we need to populate. We look down the drop-down menu. We have a permanent resident card. We click on that. We're going to put the information from that card. So where's that information found again? On the back, absolutely. So would it just be numbers? Exactly. So we'll use one that's exactly right. Look at you. I love it when you quote back to me. All right. So issuing authority, every time I've ever done this, it's always been U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. It's actually listed on the front of the card. Okay. If it were to say something different, you would select that. But everybody, all the trainers have agreed that they always put U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services because it's listed on the front. And then the expiration date is listed on the front as well. So you put that information there, and we're going to just, in the spirit of just the example, so it's really a simple process for permanent resident. You fill that out, and it's a one and done because it's one piece of ID that's doing both. Two things, is verifying identity and also eligibility to work authorization. All right, so then we certify, and by certifying, we say what the start date is, right? When is the start date always? Today's date, absolutely. Yes, I know you're paying attention. Yes, absolutely. So then I put my name in, right? Is that what I'm supposed to be doing?
You have to click the box and say that you did check the document.
Absolutely, yay! And then
Hide your name.
yeah. So I don't do this.
No.
Okay, all right.
That should have a message saying that it's not accepted.
Yeah.
You won't make that mistake.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll share that because that could be something that could be corrected in UKG Pro. And then you click what? Sign, and then you're done. All right. And so that is two different scenarios that are common. So what we like, before you bite into that, you already know where we're going. You already know where we're going. We're gonna sing. That's right. No, what we're gonna do is that we want you to get the sort of feel of it. And so, if you wouldn't mind coming up front and just show us that you know how to do it.
I have 10 minutes to get to my next meeting.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Oh, so you don't have time to just do the typing real quick? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, if that's the case, and this is sort of a unique situation because you're not going to be doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the self-registration part because there were some questions Maria specifically had. So Maria, let's go to the self-registration document, that handout. Yes. And I actually do want you to come up here, but it's going to be a quick process. I mean, we're talking really quick, like 2 or 3 minutes. All right. So, oopsie.
Is this for me?
Yeah, you can keep that, absolutely. There's one that says self-registration. Yeah, it's a one-sheeter. I know it's in there.
Yes.
All right. So this is the part that is a new process because I think people have seen UKG Pro before, and but this is completely new with the self-registration, and so I just want you to just get a feel for what that's like. So we just went through part 2. Remember, there are 2 systems that the manager is going to be introducing. One of which is they're going to do their I-9. I say introducing. They're going to be completing their I-9. They're going to be in. 2 systems they're going to be in. One being UKG Pro to do the I-9, which we just demonstrated. And the second one will be setting them up to watch the video. Yes. So we have a new function with Bring Your. And the new function is called self-register. Okay. All right. So what I did was I just, in the spirit of, because I know you do have another meeting, goodwill.brainier.com. So what we're asking is the managers already have this saved on their desktop, which they do in the hub, because people are going to Brainier to do their online assignments. So this should already be saved on their desktop. So in the training nook.
Okay.
Yeah, we're asking that the managers set this up for them, because once a person gets into
UKG,
yeah,
through UKG.
yeah, but on the first day, they're not in UKG Pro. And so in the past, they've not been able to do anything. So what Brainier has done for us, they've created a self-registration button. So this is where we're going directly to Brainier. We're bypassing UKG Pro completely. Oh, well, yeah, but other people didn't have that. They didn't even know about it. So you're one of the insiders. All right, so, well, what you're going to do is this is a new hire. So the new hire you've completed as a manager, the manager has completed the I-9, so they're fully hired. Now we want them to watch the video. So that new hire, we are going to give them this piece of paper, and we're going to observe them doing these steps because we want them to get to the right class. All right, so username, so we say step 2 is that we're going to self-register, well, step 1, we're going to register a new account. So this is the first day that they started. So what do we do here? What's the first step? We're on Brainier and we want to register a new account. This is the new hire. All right, because we want them to watch video. We want it to be on their transcript.
But they still don't have the employee ID number.
They do.
Oh, they do now?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
so
your username is your employee ID number.
Absolutely. So here's the thing, in that communication that we send to the managers, that that managers are getting from Goodwill of North Georgia, one of those is going to include the ID number. So the manager will check their email, they'll see that they received that number, and they're going to put that number there, and they're going to give it to them. They're going to give this sheet to the employee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We send this to all the managers in an electronic format. So they have this and they can just print it out at their leisure.
Okay.
All right, and we give it to them in new hire, in this class as well. They can make copies. So at any rate, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a number, and the number that I'm going to give you a number. Yeah. All right. All right. If you would we're going to make up a number here for an employee. 3, 2, 5, 6. All right. All right. So all right. So the thing is, okay, so we have to select, this is a new function because what we're doing is we're registering them. They're not in UKG Pro yet, so they're not in Brainier yet. So in order for them to watch the video the first day, they have to actually register as a new account. So there's a link there. So register a new account, okay? And so the first name, and because this is a mock account, put
New hire.
Actually, no, not for this scenario. We're going to put Aqua Man, just something because we don't want on the back end for us to think this is a legitimate account. This is a demo. Aquaman, and just put Marvel, and it probably isn't a Marvel comic. So you know that stuff, okay? So something obviously fake. So the username is, and what we say here, username is your employee ID number. So the employee ID number is the username. Okay. So we want to use our job aid here. So the username is the number that I came. All right. And so the email address, we're just going to make up a fake email address for this scenario. It's going to be the email that they used when they filled out their application and so forth. So we have to remind them of that.
Although if they have had an account with Brainier maybe through another job, they may have to put in a fake account, or a different email address from when they applied it. If that email address has been linked to a different job.
All right. So that's like one of those exceptions that may come up. And then
What is that as a match?
all right.
Hit enter, sometimes it takes a minute to file it.
All right. So something wonky's going on. It's not you.
I hope it's not me.
No, it's
Wow,
not you.
here. Make mention of the assignment of FSR and team member new hire decision assignment messed up. You see, my team members are asking the same thing that I asked yesterday.
Okay, all right.
It says the email address did not match.
Okay, you can just type it again. If you would just type it again.
But it's the red thing that doesn't move away. That
Yeah, if you would just,
Acumen.
at gmail.com. Let's see.
Password.
Password,
1, 2,
just,
3, 4.
yeah.
Confirm. 1, 2, 3, 4. I love that password. Can never forget password.
That's right. And then it says,
am not.
absolutely. And you have to put in the bicycle for this example. Okay. These things are always tricky to me because sometimes it can be subjective.
Tell me this is
Right. And so
bicycle
then
with a
you
female.
submit, yeah. All right. So it looks like it's thinking. I know you're having to wrap up here, so we're,
They waiting for me.
Oh.
Cartella's behind, so they waiting for me to start.
oh gosh, okay, so.
Log in now.
Log in now, uh-huh.
And username will
Username,
be 6,
exactly.
2, 32, 56.
Right?
And 1, 2, 3, 4. Click.
Exactly.
Watch my video.
Exactly. So here's the thing that
And
they're,
this thing, I'm Aquaman here.
yes, right, you're Aquaman. And so here's the thing, this is the only thing. It says only if you're choose with benefits. So this is what they should only be choosing is the course called 2 Steps NHO. That's the only one.
But
So,
if I'm a part-time,
Part-time still gets holidays, PTO, and vacation.
so it's still with benefits.
yeah, still benefits.
Oh.
Yeah.
People that don't get any benefits are FSA.
Yeah, so that's, they always click on with benefits unless they're FSR. So, so there are different ways to search, and we have one way here to search. But what we've done is we actually set a sign. Actually, we do. That right there is the only one that they should be completing.
Yes.
Well,
I know.
I have to say reading is fundamental with that one. If it's not a FSR, this is why the manager needs to be here and not just leaving the employee to figure it out. It's important that they know, because it didn't take long, just get here and just watch them click.
Can I ask you a question? If I log in under myself, can I watch this video? Just to see the content. Not that I wanted to pick on you guys, but just to see the content, to be familiar with it.
With the caveat that that is one of our next projects, to redo this video. All right.
Yeah, right. Full disclaimer. Full disclaimer.
We already know you, Maria.
And they are auto-assigned to any new hires,
Yes.
newly registered accounts. I'm not sure if people that have been here for a while.
But they can look it up.
Can you assign it to me?
Can they just look it up if they do a search?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think I can see it. I know when I do, because I do train the trainer, and I do get new hires in my train the trainer, especially shift supervisors. So when I go into their account to do the training, we do the hands-on and then the e-learning, I see that they have the assignment, but I don't see it under my page. But I would like to see the video.
Right. Yeah, no. We'll investigate that. I'll follow back up with you.
Oh, maybe I
Yeah,
I do that.
yeah, because
I sign as
Aquaman.
Aquaman.
Yeah,
Just give me
Aquaman.
the number.
I'll give you that page. Absolutely.
I will
Absolutely.
be Aquaman today. He said, I will be Aquaman today.
Yes,
I
it's-
shouldn't. I put Aquaman.
Right,
kidding.
right. But you know what? I hear you when you say about the FSR, and so we hear you, and we'll share that information with the team to see if there's any workaround there.
Just to remove the word benefits, they were just supposed to say that it's the only thing that's supposed to be designated, was no benefits, and that's only for FSRs, and it says FSRs only.
Okay, so we need to change the name of it? Is that what we?
I think actually if you scroll up, it no longer says NHO with benefits, it just says 2-step NHO. The video is still with benefits, but yeah, so the other one says FSR only. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so that was a question. You just received an email asking about why is it there. So we had people, yesterday Maria had said that managers are asking her why they're both there because people are doing them both.
Because we're automatically assigning it.
I know.
The benefits or the downsides to having this as a self-registration where it's not linked into UKG Pro is that when it's through UKG Pro, there's a designation in there. So there's DGR, people are able to access these things, and managers are able to access these things, and career services are able to access these things. But through this portal now, we don't have any separation of departments or designations. So this is available to everybody. So we can't have it so that neither of them are available because FSRs need to complete theirs and regular employees still have to complete theirs. So we can't prevent people from seeing either of those things to start with, unfortunately.
Right. It is.
We're
It's,
going to exclude one of those groups.
right.
I will suggest that maybe have a little box. If I am not a FSR, have something that I can say not applicable, so it will move out of my assigned bucket, because that's what they concern. When we go in and we run reports, it still shows that you have an assignment that you haven't complete.
So
Because you didn't do it because you're not a FSR, but it says you have one pending.
Okay, so we could remove it from being assigned, it's just gonna make it more difficult to find.
But you only have one manager in FSR. The manager for the FSR is only one, Marcia. She can control or manage that, or make somehow a selection that I can check not applicable for me and do mine. So that way it will move out of my bucket of assignments. I always go on my page and I see assignments because we get assignments for corporate. And I don't want to have anything pending, so they have pending, but it's really not pending because I'm not a FSR.
Right.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a conversation we'll need to have as a
Yeah.
follow-up, just for systems improvement.
Yes.
Yes.
So we run reports monthly,
Oh, yeah.
because now we have electronic files.
Like they're not doing what they're supposed
Supposed to be
Yes,
doing.
so
Good point.
it's always gonna show red, that you have one pending, and every month they get the new monthly transcript.
to. Yeah,
Right.
and we don't want
Good
them-
point. Good.
Yes.
That was something that I didn't even know was an issue until you brought it up as being something that
Yeah.
was happening. So I know that you have to leave us, but I
I'm so
appreciate,
sorry. I love
no,
it.
I appreciate your feedback, such constructive.
One thing that's really important that you have to get to understand the process before you go, if you would open up, back up the two-step NHO.
I think it does, the one that has the safety work rules, no, right? No.
Yeah, it has OSHA and all that stuff in it.
Yes.
They have to complete this acknowledgement survey,
Yes.
and it has to be done on the same day. And this is how HRIS knows to go in and hit that E-Verify and review and submit new hire. Without that, they do not get hired. They will not show up on their payroll. So this has to be done.
Yeah, that's very important. I didn't know
So
that part.
this is the trigger to have HRIS process them. So this, first of all, it has to be completed on the same day, because if you do their I-9 saying their start date's today and then they don't watch the video for 3 days, we're out of compliance. So it has to be done the first day, and this is what lets HRIS know that it's time to move forward to submit their E-Verify and review and submit new hire. Otherwise, they will not get fully hired, and they will not wind up being paid, and they won't show up in their payroll. So that's the other thing, as a very DGR train the trainer specific. It is really important that that gets completed the same day, and
It's in the
report-
checklist.
It's in the checklist. The report goes out at 8:30 every night. So if for some reason they're having them start this process at 8, maybe they don't get completed with the video until 9, they will not show up on the list the next day. They will show up the following day. Okay? So it'll take 2 business days for them to get processed, or 2 days for them to get processed. If someone has completed all of these steps, if they've done everything they needed to do, and after 2 days they're not showing up in their payroll system, I need them to contact me so that we can follow up.
Right.
But, so I feel like you had another question.
How many days? So if I roll the person, if I bring the new hire the person can only come at 1 o'clock, and we view the video, and then he does the acknowledgement, when do you guys see it that they completed? How many, 24 hours, 2 days?
So there will be a report that's generated from Brainier that goes directly to HRIS. There is a report that's generated from Brainier that goes directly to HRIS. That is submitted at 8:30 every night. So they will have a list first thing in the morning to work from to be able to process any of their new hires. And sometimes they're able to catch these folks as it's coming through because they're aware of who's about to start and they're kind of checking through the system. So sometimes it happens earlier, but the earliest it should be expected is by noon the following day, as long as it's completed before 8:30 p.m. If it's completed after 8:30 p.m., it'll be the following day. And you do have our contact information on the, yes, yeah. Call, text, email. I would always, always, always rather talk to you than have to talk to our bosses about mistakes. So please call, text, email. I'm available nights and weekends too. You just let me know.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Awesome, awesome sauce. Right. So I know that this has been a sort of a unique training, experience because Maria is more of an ally. She's not a store manager in the sense of, directly, but you're an ally in that you have such broad reach and people are coming to you, before they come to us. If they see Maria, they're going to stop you in the hallway or while you're doing other tasks. So any way that you're helping, we're helping you, but you're helping us. You know what I mean? By giving you this information. So please, if you have anything else that bubbles up, because your ears to the ground, let us know, because we want to, because they're going to tell you things in a way that they're not going to tell us.
Because they're gonna feel more comfortable.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Like the good comment that they make about how easy it was to follow the paperwork.
Yes.
Yeah, I will keep you posted.
And I know you have to go. Normally, we would have much more of the presentation, and we're still going to do that part, just for the sake of training. But I know you have to go, and I want to be respectful of your time. But just blame it on us.
No, the other one is very, very important too, so I cannot. Oh, yeah.
No, thank you so much.
Because I was invited here.
Yeah, oh, listen to you. Thank you, my dear. You're awesome. I appreciate you. All right then. Bye-bye. And so that was very, very organic. Things just happened, and we benefited from the questions and the feedback that Maria provided to us as an ally. So it was really good. So just for the spirit of just dotting the I's, crossing the T's, we've gone through the two parts of the onboarding process. And so what we're going to do now is just to wrap things up, go back to where we were, and just go through the rest of the presentation. All right, so Maria, our audience of one, she just was introduced to the two different systems and just emphasizing the importance, as we see here, that we only select the one item, that we stay away, like kryptonite, stay away from E-Verify, and I'm right in front of the poll again, E-Verify, as well as the review and summary tasks, that we stay away from those, as this image indicates, bad. All right. So here is the document that we referred to, completing the I-9. Again, the checklist gives you this real streamlined, very clear list of steps, but some of us are more visually oriented, and so that's what this document does. The same steps, but it's more visual here, and it can be more helpful. So next, as I mentioned earlier, it was just really important that if we do have somebody who had a start date of a month before, and sometime in April, and they actually are starting today, onboarding today on May the 12th, then we want to make sure, for administrative purposes, and make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's, that we let HRIS, again, acronym CITY, HRIS, Human Resources and Information Systems, know that this is a date that's different. The start date has changed. So we want to make sure we communicate that, and to the extent that we can do it as far in advance as possible, the better. All right, so this information is included in the various handouts that we have as well. And so we always want to give folks an opportunity to ask questions about what we just covered, because we covered a whole lot. And the good news is that our audience member had a lot of questions, and we addressed them in real time. So we definitely feel like we checked that box, and we completed self-registration. And just always, always, always just stressing, when people go outside the lines, this is the thing that they're doing. They're clicking on things that are not part of the process. So follow the checklist. Don't be afraid to follow the checklist. We're not going to come behind you and say, did you do the checklist? But we'll know, because those are when mistakes are made. If you're new to the process, use those those support systems to help you, like a recipe, remember? All right, and we want to make sure that we're only selecting Form I-9, and again, there's a reason why we're going over this 100 times, because you're busy. You have a lot of different projects to do, and if you have someone that's asking you about a truck that's coming in, and somebody else is telling you that there's a customer complaint and there's a floor move, and you have an employee that might have an issue, it is very easy for this to fall off the radar. So don't do that to yourself. Set yourself up for success. Use the job aid so that you will remember to only select Form I-9. The self-registration form, the same thing there, that this is really important. We made it easy for you, and if you're using this, it really becomes just a very simple process. And people that have done this have felt like they did something wrong because it was so easy. As a reminder, you should not be sitting there watching the video with them. Again, you do the I-9, straightforward. It might be 10 minutes. You set them up on the video, 2 or 3 minutes. You watch them, by the way. If we haven't learned anything, we have learned that it's so important that we are there as the administrators, that we watch them enter their information, that we watch them go in and select the course, and that the course that they are selecting is the right one, which should always be 2-step NHO. It should never, anything that has FSR on it is for a very small group. And the way the system is set up, and to have accessibility, we have to have both options available. But we only, as the store employees that are non-flexible account staff, I said flexible account, flexible staffing, those folks are a small group. If you don't know what FSR is, you're not one of them. So in the stores, 99% of the stores are going to, 99% of the managers are going to be instructing their new hire to select 2-step NHO. Not anything that has FSR. That is for a very small group. Do not do both, okay? Do not do both. And that'll make sense, again, if you refer back to your checklist where it says on step 12, complete the 2-step NHO. It says full-time and part-time 2-step NHO with benefits. And then it has when the FSR one is applicable. So again, if you follow the checklist, it becomes bulletproof. Okay? What the self-registration process in Brainier is all about, We've done that through the job aid. Once we go through the self-registration process, what we're doing is creating an account, watching the video, and this is key, as you saw earlier when we were talking with the sales manager. It's important, it's essential that we watch the video and complete that acknowledgement form. And so what managers are doing, they're either doing one or two things. Either they're having the person watch the video and then physically come get them when they're done. So the managers are not in the room, they're busy doing all the other things that they have to do in their role. Or they just time themselves, maybe put a timer on their phone to come back to the space in an hour so that they can watch that new hire complete the acknowledgement form. The key is the acknowledgement form has to be done, and it has to be done completely. And so why risk that? Because if it's not done completely, what will end up happening is it will bog down the process. They will not be hired. It could cause problems with payroll, all kinds of issues. So let's not do that to ourselves. We've had managers think that they were being helpful by moving the process forward by completing the I-9, and then the next day doing the acknowledgement form. It became something that had to be corrected, and a lot of man hours went into that, and it caused some delays. So just don't do that to yourself, okay? So, and the good news, all of this is we have so many handouts for you. So a lot of opportunity for you to have support. And so now it's all downhill from here. I love this image. Whee! It's all downhill because we've been talking quite a bit. And as a reminder, what do we want to make sure that we do? At this point, I should give the microphone to you. You're part of the group now. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. We have to make sure, I'm actually going to give this to you so that you can chime in. We want to make sure that we always click what, ma'am? Is it okay to click E-Verify?
Oh,
What about summary? Because it says submit.
no.
Okay, so what should we click only?
Form I-9.
Form I-9, that's right, that's right. Woo! That's right. Thank you for that. Thank you for playing along. All right, so again, the checklist and what we've done in this presentation, and you have a copy of this presentation, is that we've, at the very top, you'll see it in various places in the PowerPoint, the copy of the printout of the PowerPoint, where we indicate where in the checklist you're going to find this information. Because this, again, the checklist is here to support you. So where do you find information about the photos? Is step 7 and step 8. So you don't have to commit this to memory. It's just so important that we remember that for compliance purposes, we do have to take photos of every employee. They're always listed in UKG Pro. So that's important. And the best way to do it is to take the photo. Everybody knows how to take a photo on their phone. And most of us, all of us should have Outlook on our phone. If we're in management, we should definitely have Outlook on our phone. And that is the easiest way. Take a photo with your phone and go into Outlook on our phone in order to send photos to HR ID badges at ging.org, and also to send it to our store account. Why? Because in order to print out the photo, what managers have told us they're doing is going to their store inbox. And the only way they can get the photo is by emailing. If you're at Decatur, it will go to the Decatur inbox, the store inbox. And in that way, you can go ahead and process photos for badges in the store. So that's why we indicate both. If you don't do it through this method, what could end up happening is that, how we have that blocking system for security? It may be delayed. It might be in that parking lot, and photos are not being received where they should be received. So why have the delay? If you do it this way, you won't have the delay. It's in real time. All right, so documents, the tip sheet that we have listed here, new hire onboarding overview. This is more of the 18,000-foot view of the process. Again, there is some built-in redundancy on purpose because this is a new process. So we don't go in this process, in this handout, we don't go into every single step of the I-9 process. We go into the whole onboarding process, which is to say, we say, do I-9, take photo, but we don't say all the ins and outs of doing the I-9. We have a dedicated handout for that. So that's the difference between this handout and the one that says I-9. This is more global. This is more of an overview. And it has some photos too. So that's how it differs from the checklist as well. So step 10 on the checklist says welcome packet. So again, we just give you that prompt because what we've been told is that there are some questions about our benefit package. And so as a reminder, we're not going to cover this now, but what we have included in your packet of information in the PowerPoint printout is information about the 60-day rule because some employees are thinking that they can't sign up for benefits until after 60 days. So actually, you have to sign up for benefits before 60 days. Second thing is that it goes into effect the first of the month following the 60 days, okay? Two different things, sign up, effectiveness. And so we have some points here that you can just be reminded of. You can share with the new hire, maybe talk about it in the huddle because it is such an issue. Benefits are so important. We don't want anybody to inadvertently miss that. And we do have that several times in the video. And on page 17 in the welcome packet, we even have a fill in the blank little activity. So if that's something that you want to talk through with the new hire, we've already provided the tools for you to do so. Again, reminder, management reminders. These are the things that if you don't remember anything else, please remember this. Complete the Bring Your Acknowledgement form on the same day as you complete the I-9. So important, same day, okay? Make sure that you only click one thing. And what's the one thing?
Form I-9.
Form I-9.
Thank you for playing along. Yeah, for Form I-9, which is to say you do not click anything else. Am I right? Do not click the E-Verify link. Do not click the Review Submit button. No matter how tempting this might be, don't do it, okay? So next, again, redundancy aware, but it's for the greater good because this is a new process. So we want it to really make an impact here. As a reminder, start dates, if they're different, then the start date that you provided in the contingent form, you anticipated a person was starting 3 weeks ago. They could not start, and now they're starting 3 weeks after their start date. Make sure you communicate that with humanresources@gain.org. Just simply say in the subject line, new start date, the person's name. Okay? And that way it makes it easy for them to address this on the back end in a more efficient way. So just make sure that communication is the key, guys. Like in everything else in life, it's just so important. And again, these points are in the checklist as well as in various handouts. We don't expect you to commit this to memory. Okay. Important. Obviously, this is important. Okay, it's essential that we know only click this. Where we have gotten emails that said that people have gone outside the lines, it's because they've clicked these other things. And so when we click these other things, I don't think I've actually said baldly what the impact is. If you click these other things, what we're saying is that we are vouching for this person's legitimacy. There is a site that the federal government has, E-Verify, this whole process around that. You have to be certified to be able to actually utilize this particular certification portal. Once we enter information, it goes to that portal, and at that point, the federal government says this person is legitimate. They vouch for it. We're not vouching for it. If we skip that step, we're saying that they are legitimate. We've stepped outside the compliance, and what could end up happening is we could be penalized, we could fined thousands of dollars. Everything we do at Goodwill can be at jeopardy. We are audited periodically. It's everything, and hence the repetition, okay? Okay. So what links should you never touch? Nobody has an excuse, because I think I've counted at, I stopped counting at like 10. What links should we never touch?
E-verify and review and submit new hire.
Thank you. Absolutely right. Such a great student. Yes, you really have been paying attention, ma'am. Well, thank you. Thank you. All right, so just again, all kidding aside, it's just really important that we just use the tools. That's all we're saying. I think we got that. Use the tools. They're there for a reason, to help us, to help you do your job. And in this way, you don't have that, that anxiety of just thinking, did I miss something? I think I did everything. Don't think, be confident. How do you be confident? You use your checklist. You use your checklist. And so here, as we said earlier, Kate had shared that we gave you 2 of these documents. And one of these documents is just the information, which you get to keep for your records. And this document, this version of it, has a place for you to print your name, sign your name, and put the date. And so what you're saying is that you understand all of this. So I want you guys to take a minute right now to review all of these elements. Everything from, accessing UKG on the dashboard, accessing the I-9 form. How do you know to schedule an appointment? Well, it's there, 1 through 3. Once you schedule the appointment, step 4, verifying what they entered. That's step 5. Then you actually enter the information based on their ID. That's step 6. Take a photo. Step 7. Step 8. Email photos. Where do you email it? Well, it says it right there. So that's pretty straightforward. Second system, Brainier. Go through that process. Again, in a document, a separate document with photos. Self-registration process in Brainier. But we also have it listed here. The employee ID number, that their ID number is their username. The packet, welcome packet, make sure we give that to them. So everything here and what course to take is all listed here. Do you have any questions about any of it? Don't be shy. Okay, if you don't have any questions, just know. Ma'am, do you have a question?
Yeah, who do we contact if we have additional questions?
Great question. Well, we are always here. We're not just dropping. This is not a one and done. So no worries about that. Not a one and done. So the corporate training team is available, and that includes me. It includes Kate, my co-pilot here, who's also the person who's the project manager. She hates when I say that. That doesn't mean you only call her. We all are available, but she is the keeper of a lot of information. And she's coming up to the front to talk about that. And then Adriana Watkins and Whitney Pauls. Sorry, Whitney. Whitney Pauls. So, Kate, you want to I'm passing the baton on to you.
That's right. So, all day long, we would rather work through a question with you if you need support. You can contact us. We will sit on the phone with you while you're doing a new hire. If you have questions, you can call, text, email us. Tonette and Adriana are available during business hours. And if you have a weekend or evening question, you can reach out to me. I do strongly suggest that you text me if you're going to reach out to me, because then I will answer and return that. And otherwise, we are really excited for this new system. We're hoping that it's something that you're going to love. We have had great feedback so far, and we know that at the end of the day, this is going to be a good return on investment for you, not only in your time. This should take you between 5 and 15 minutes out of your day of actual work. And and then putting them in front of the video. And then you're only having to pay them for about an hour and a half worth of new hire orientation rather than the 3 that you were having to pay. So that's immediately an hour and a half for every employee that you're getting back, that you're going to be able to reduce your costs on. So we know that the benefits are going to outweigh the time investment that you've had to make, and we're really excited for this new system and for you to be a part of it.
Awesome, awesome, thank you. Yes, 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 it really does. And I love that phrase, the return on investment. Yes, there's something you have to do, but in terms of what time you get back, yeah, that's the thing. All right, so again, we've gone through, we walked through the checklist, and one of the things, Kate, that we have in place as well are these inserts. And these inserts are helpful because some people, want to put things in paper folders. I know everybody doesn't have a folder system, but I've been told that some people actually still use folders. And if you want to be confident that you did everything you were supposed to do, you can use these small inserts and just keep them in the folder, because we no longer have the certificate program. Brainier is going to be keeping track of who has completed the video, the orientation process. So that's going to be a part of a person's transcript. But you can also have the confidence of knowing if you are keeping a paper, a real folder with information, you can actually have this be a component so that if if you're ever asked, did you take the photo? Well, you did because you checked it off on the list. So this can be very helpful as well. And we provided you with this as a tool, a mini checklist for you to use as well. So again, you guys, I know it's comical at this point. It's just so important. So it's so important that we click only the one button and that we stay away from the other. I almost don't even want to say what not to click on. If you only click I-9, you're winning. If you only do that, you're ahead of the game. So just make sure that we just take the coaching and utilize the tools that we have available. And I think this might be our last time talking about it. I think this might be, I don't know, maybe. But just remember that if I'm going through this about 15 times, it matters. I think you did the math on that. So we are finally at that place where we are done with our presentation, but we're not far away. So if there are questions that you have after today, please don't be shy. As Kate has shared, we're always available, for you, because we know that things happen and we know this is a new process. The only thing that's constant, guys, is change. And so embrace this change. Just think about anything you've ever done or ever thought that you were going to do that you had some resistance. I mean, I use the example of I thought that I couldn't ever learn how to swim, for example. In my mind, I just thought, I am not going to learn how to swim. And I took lessons, and now I'm a swimmer. I thought I would never be able to drive a stick shift, but now I can drive a stick shift, right? So if there's anybody that's listening, that's watching this video that thinks, you know what, this is so hard or complicated, I promise you, it isn't. What you're feeling is just natural. It just means it's new. So just embrace it. Just know that it will go away. And just think about anything else you've ever learned. And now that you think, I got this. So thank you so much for your time. Kate, did you want to say anything else before we wrap up? All right. We're here for you.